So I've been playing a lot of Rare Replay at the moment, probably for the past week. Kind of got back into it because I find it one of those kind of nice little palette cleansers that I can kind of play in between those bigger games, which I do like. And it's making me kind of think about retro games and how accessible they are today. And I think the reason why is because I think Rare Replay does a very, very good job of making those older games a bit more palatable for modern gamers. I mean, in regards to the fact most of the games on that collection have some sort of cheat code or rewind functionality, and to be honest, those kind of modes are an absolute godsend, especially for a game like Battletoads, which is notoriously high difficulty. I guess I'll get into that in a bit, and it's a really good collection. I really do love Rare Replay. Not every game on that collection is a bona fide classic, but what developer can say that about every single one of their games. But what I like about it is it's a nice sort of celebration from like the beginning of Rare, from the old Ultimate Play the Game days to their classic 16 and 64-bit Nintendo stuff to the stuff they did with Microsoft. And I think Rare gets a lot of bad rap, even from myself, after they were bought by Microsoft. And looking at Rare Replay as a collection, when you start to play those 360, Xbox One 360 games, you kind of realise actually they did some pretty good games. Not all to say as classic as the 64-bit stuff, which we all know and love. The GoldenEyes, the Perfect Darks, the Banjo-Kazooies, all that stuff, but really, really solid. And I'm really just enjoying it, just because it's this whole kind of consistent, this collection of everything, and the way it's presented is just so immaculate. Lots of interviews of people, lots of ways to encourage you to play those old games. Everything from like the stamps to unlocking those those documentaries and things like that. All the milestones and of course achievements, which always an excuse for me to play a game because I do love my achievements. But I mean, I said it makes these old games a bit more easy to play. So some of the Spectrum stuff, it's very old now. I mean, it's pushing 30 years now, and if you're not used to playing games back then, it's quite a bit of a culture shock. They're so simplistic, graphically, mechanically, in some ways almost broken, and playing with the cheats and save states kind of remedies that a bit. And then you move on to something like Battletoads, where even if you're cheating in Battletoads, that game is ridiculously hard. And I think the story goes that, I think I heard from somewhere that Battletoads wasn't always, I think it was too easy at one point. I think I heard that someone said it was too easy and that they needed to change it, and I think they kind of went the other way and made it too difficult, because there's only so many levels in that game anyway. And as a result, it's just so hideously unfair. Very limited lives, continues, etc. Parts of the game where you have to be absolutely pixel perfect in your jumps and your movements. You make a half a millisecond worth of error, and that can kill you. There is actually a level in the game where it's a top-down area, you're riding on a bike, and you have to make these corners while something's chasing you, and you have to be absolutely pixel perfect with the way you navigate those corners, because I say one mess up, one even slight off time, and you're dead. And even if you're using the rewind function in Infinite Lives, that's still quite a challenge. And then you've got a game like Snake Rattle and Roll, which I've kind of played for the first time, which I never really played when it came out on the NES. And the last boss of that game is ridiculous. It's some sort of bouncing foot. And the way you fight that enemy, the way you defeat that enemy, is that you have to rapidly hit this enemy with your tongue attack. But if you stop attacking, again, half a millisecond, his health replenishes, and you just have to go for the whole thing again. And he's moving around in this isometric space while you're doing it, and that makes it much more harder. And it's very difficult to keep that attack up when he's kind of constantly moving around, even if it's the same path. The set path never really changes, and then you've got these kind of boulders that are flying across in diagonals that are trying to hit you, and so you've got to keep non-stopping attacking this enemy while avoiding these boulders and following this guy from behind. And again, even with the rewind bits, they're still pretty difficult, so it's not an easy game to play even with all these cheats. But despite all this, and I did finish Battletoads by the way in the end, it did take me a good part of a Saturday afternoon for that one, but I'm enjoying it, and I think that's a good thing. It's allowing me to enjoy these rare games I'd always wanted to play, And because there's that barrier there, I mean, like I said, again, Battletoads, Snake Rattle and Roll, Digger T-Rock, because these games can get quite hard, you have that kind of barrier that you don't want to, you want to see more, but because of these difficulties, these particular segments of games, you just don't want to play it anymore. And I think that interests me. I wonder, you know, even a game like the Mega Man Legacy Collection, which, you know, I reviewed for God Is a Geek last year, that's a similar thing where it's very, very hard in places, and once you kind of reach that barrier, you're stuck and you don't want to kind of carry on any further. But then when you kind of get past that stage, you find it a much more enjoyable title, and you get to see some really amazing pieces of gameplay, music, you know, all the good stuff. And again, that's got kind of save states and ways to make the games a little bit easier or harder for that matter. And I wonder why we're not seeing so many of these remakes and these kind of remasters and collections, because I think these things are really, really good. They're a nice little stopgap in between some of the big releases. I'd definitely like to see some more kind of collections, especially when they're big value stuff like Rare Replay, where it was like £20, you know, day one for 30 odd games, which, you know, some of those games you can get digitally for, you know, 10-15 quid like already, so you're already making a saving. But yeah, as I say, I just wanted to talk about Rare Replay just because it was something that I've really been enjoying very much. So as I said last time, I'm going to do some questions of the vlog. Question of the week, I don't really do these weekly, but question of the week. Let's call it that. So last week I asked you what games you were playing, because that was a pretty simple question. And I got a couple of answers. So my colleagues at God Is a Geek, or rather Adam Cook, my boss technically, he's telling me that he's been playing The Witness because I have nothing else to do. It's good, but I'm not sure it's the 10 out of 10 that everyone is saying it is. I haven't played it yet, to be honest, Adam. You know I haven't played it yet, but I kind of want to play Witness just because it interests me slightly, but I don't want to spend that much money for a game that I may not necessarily enjoy. If that came as a PS Plus game, I'd probably jump on that, because I did like Jonathan Blow's Braid. That was one of my favourite kind of indie games of the last generation, as it was for many people. But I think The Witness is a game that's very divisive, and that's a good thing. You know, there's nothing wrong with a game that divides the community in terms of people like it, people don't like it. That just is better than everyone hating a game or everybody liking a game. Opinions are a good thing as it happens. Another commenter, Birdie Be, who's always tweets things, likes things, and a very very nice person. So Birdie Be, she's at Birdie Be on Twitter, by the way, and on YouTube. Right now, while I watch this, I am playing a slot machine game on a free website. Apart from that, playing Borderlands with my brother again, and SmackDown vs Raw 2010 a lot. We both have other games on the go. I'm making my way through Black on PS2 again. It's one of my faves. Black's a game I always wanted to play. I'm a big Criterion Games fan. The Burnout series is probably one of my favourite series of games ever. But I don't know why I never played Black. I think it's because at the time I had a GameCube. I didn't have a PS2 or an Xbox until much later. By that time I moved on to other things. SmackDown vs Raw 2010. I think I had that on the Xbox 360. I think. I'm partial to the odd wrestling game. I think I tended to stick to the N64 ones like No Mercy, but I did kind of go on to the SmackDown vs Raw for the first couple of them just because they were quite fun games, especially online. I tried out WWE 2K14 a few years ago and I quite liked that. I wanted to see if maybe the next game might bring me back to those sort of games, because I'm not really big into wrestling, but I just like the games because they're fun. Borderlands, yeah, I'm kind of done with Borderlands. I played a lot of Borderlands with my wife, co-op, and we rinsed the hell out of that game. Played all the DLC, went through all the bosses, did everything we possibly could, got all the achievements, and then we moved on to Borderlands 2, and we've tried so many times to get into that game. We tried it a few times on the Xbox 360. We recently tried it again with the Handsome Collection on Xbox One, and it's just something about that game that meant I don't know if it's because we played too much of the previous game, but we kind of just didn't get into it. There wasn't something right. But as I say, that first Borderlands game I absolutely loved. It was something fresh. It was a first-person shooter that I could really get my teeth into, and the fact it was co-op and I could play my wife just made it that much interesting. So those are my comments for this episode. So I'm going to give you another question. By all means, answer this down underneath in the comments, or tweet me at Pug Hoof Gaming, and of course I'll read out answers on the next episode. So my question for this week is, what is your biggest gaming achievement? So gaming is a skill-based hobby. It's full of lots of hard difficulty things, achievements and things like that. So I'd like to know what kind of really difficult thing in a game that you did, you achieved, and you were just so pleased about it. I want to know what game it is and what that was. I would love to hear in the comments or on Twitter. My one, those who know me very well know that I'm partial to a game called Vanquish by Platinum Games on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. I love that game. I think I rented that game and I kept it for months and months and months. That was when I was really big into getting achievements, and I needed to get every achievement in that game. And that game is not easy. It's a very fast-paced, cover-based shooter. Lots of sliding around, kind of power boosting, and there's a nice mechanic where you can kind of boost out of trouble and also dodge things. And sometimes if you boost, then you kind of use up your energy in a way. And if you get hit too many times, you can also slow things down and things like that. And it's a wonderful, wonderful game which you should also play. But when you finish the game, which I did on hard mode, that wasn't the achievement, you can do these things called tactical challenges that you unlock, and there's 6 of them, which doesn't sound like a lot, but they're the hardest things in the game. So there's one called Tactical Challenge 6, and it is the most ridiculous kind of series of enemies you'll ever fight, and you have to survive essentially. And it throws the hardest, biggest enemies in the game at you multiple times. Like you'll be double teamed by like the last boss, and they're really angry and have lots of aggro and just come after you constantly. And you should check it out on YouTube. Look for Tactical Challenge 6 on YouTube, and you'll see how ridiculous it is. And then you'll also see some of the speed runs, which is where I kind of learned how to actually finally beat the levels by watching other people play and picking up some of their kind of tactics. And you get people to finish this level in about like 2-3 minutes. I think it took me about 10, but I did it. And it was one of those games like I think I did this one level for about a month solid, and I just kept doing it. I had to finish it. I should have been playing other games, but I just needed to get this one level done so I could get this achievement and completely finish the game. And I spent months doing it, and it kind of got to the stage where it was actually physically stressing me out because I was that much of an adrenaline rush playing the game. And when I did it, it was just like the biggest sigh of relief, because everyone that knew me, like Adam from God is a Geek and the team over there, I used to talk about when I used to go on their podcast all the time, that I really need to finish this game, and I did it, and it was the most amazing feeling at the time. I think it's one of my proudest gaming moments, which is quite a sad thing to say, but that game is amazing, and earning that achievement is one of those things that's like, yeah, once you've done that, you've kind of almost mastered Vanquish. So that is my greatest gaming achievement. I would love to know yours, so please send me your greatest gaming achievements in the comments and on Twitter at Pug Hoof Gaming, and I'll read them out on the next vlog I do, whenever that may be. I think that's you lot, because I've been talking for a fair old bit now. Thank you very much for watching as always. We're on social media and all that stuff, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Tumblr, Facebook, all that good stuff, all under at Pug Hoof Gaming. Check out some videos. I've recently done a video about all the SNES mouse games, peripheral that not many people know about. Well, they may know just for one game, Mario Paint, but the SNES had plenty more games that supported the mouse, not just Mario Paint, and I kind of cover the best and worst of those, so worth checking out. Again, still kind of chugging out content as and when I can. As always, you can see me on God is a Geek doing videos every week for them. I've got a couple of features over there as well, and I do bits and bobs here and there. So I shall see you around, and until next time, keep gaming positive.